Hello and welcome to Byju's IAS. Before we begin the daily quiz for today, we have a very big announcement. Based on popular demand, we are pleased to announce the launch of our dedicated Byju's IAS Hindi channel on YouTube. We hope through this new channel, we will continue helping out UPSC aspirants by providing high quality content in Hindi for free. So please express your support by subscribing to the channel. The link for the same will be shared in the description box below. And don't forget to share this link with your family, friends, and fellow aspirants. So, with this, let's get started with the daily quiz for today. The first question: what is the main objective of ISRO's RESPOND program? To deploy a deep space explorer to study the outer planets of solar system, to detect the presence of extraterrestrials and intelligent beings across galaxies, to establish strong links with premier academic institutions, to carry out space-related R&D projects in order to support ISRO's programs, to initiate a global outreach to the space community around the world in order to promote collaboration and jointness in space technologies. Amongst the given options, option C is the correct answer. See, ISRO launched the RESPOND program back in 1976 in order to establish strong links with premier and leading academic institutions of the country in order to carry out space-related R&D projects. The focus of this program was to tie up with leading academic institutions such as IITs and provide an opportunity to non-ISRO scientists to contribute towards India's space program. This question was taken up because we have an article in today's The Hindu newspaper which makes a reference to the RESPOND program of ISRO. This article refers to the support that ISRO has offered to space-related R&D projects in association with IIT Delhi. Now let's look at the second question. India has been negotiating the Bilateral Trade and Investment Agreement or BTIA with United States, Australia, ASEAN, European Union. The correct answer is option D. India has been negotiating the BTIA agreement with the European Union. See, the BTIA stands for Bilateral or Broad-Based Trade and Investment Agreement that is being negotiated between India and the European Union since 2007. It is essentially a proposed free trade agreement that comprehensively covers trade in goods, trade in services, investments, movement of professionals and students, and immigration related issues, intellectual property laws, dispute settlement, competition, rules of origin, etc. The signing of this broad based trade and investment agreement has been delayed for several years between the two countries due to several issues that have emerged during multiple rounds of negotiations. The European Union, in particular, as it represents the developed nations, they insist on higher environmental standards, labor standards, IP protection, higher standards of hygiene, sanitary and phytosanitary measures, and they push for the adoption of Western standards with regard to immigration laws, dispute settlement, and competition. But these demands of the European Union is hard for a country like India to meet because developing nations like India have different priorities with regard to environment, labor, IP laws, etc. So, due to these issues, the negotiations have hit a roadblock, and recently both the sides are making renewed attempts to take forward the negotiations and to finalize and sign the BTIA. This question has been taken up because, according to this article in The Hindu, Prime Minister Modi has cancelled his upcoming Europe trip, during which he was slated to participate in the India EU summit, where both the sides were expecting to make progress with regard to the ongoing BTIA negotiations. But this upcoming visit of the Prime Minister had to be cancelled as a result of the surge in the COVID-19 pandemic in India and as well as in Europe, and hence both the sides have decided to hold this summit virtually, and they are looking forward to make some progress on the signing of the BTIA. Now let's look at the third question. Which country has recently expressed interest to withdraw from the International Space Station and launch its own space station by 2025? USA, China, Russia, Japan. The correct answer is option C, Russia. See, the International Space Station, which was launched back in 1998, represents a unique collaboration between the space agencies of the United States, Russia, Canada, Japan, and few European countries which are part of the European Union. Setting aside their geopolitical differences, these countries came together to fund, operate, and maintain a joint space project, thereby resulting in space cooperation between these countries. But of late, Russia has been having issues with the United States as a result of their rising geopolitical tensions. Plus, Russia is also facing competition from American space companies such as SpaceX. And following this, Russia has expressed interest to withdraw completely from the International Space Station and gone to build a separate space station of its own by 2025. This development has been reported in this article in the Hindu, and hence we took up this question. This article also mentions another important fact, especially for state PCS exams and other government exams. And you can note that Yuri Gagarin, who was a Russian cosmonaut, became the first person to enter outer space. Now let's look at the fourth question. Which of the following statements are correct? The BOW Forum for Asia is a non-profit organization that hosts high-level forums for leaders from government, business, and academia in Asia and other continents to share their vision on the most pressing issues in this dynamic region and the world at large. It is modeled on the World Economic Forum, which is held annually at Davos in Switzerland, and it is also known as the Asian Davos. No official Indian participation in the BOA Forum has been indicated so far. All the three statements are correct. Option D is the right answer. See, following the Asian financial crisis of 1997, major economies of the region, such as China, Philippines, Indonesia, Australia, and even India, gave a call for the establishment of a joint economic forum that is focused exclusively on the Asian region. And this led to the formation of the BOA Forum for Asia in 2001, with the participation of around 26 countries from the region under the leadership of China. But however, India did not take part in this initiative officially. And even though the Indian industry and academia is represented at this forum, which is known as the Asian Davos, India still doesn't send out any official diplomatic delegation to take part in this forum. This question was taken up because we have an article in the Hindu that makes a reference to the BOA Forum for Asia that is usually held under China's leadership. This forum is modeled on the lines of the World Economic Forum, which is held at Davos every year. Similarly, the so-called Asian Davos is held at Boa, which is a city located in China. During the latest interaction between government leaders, industries, business leaders, and economic experts from the region, China has addressed all the participating stakeholders, and it has stated that a few countries, especially a few group of countries, cannot set global rules and cannot dictate a so-called rules-based order against the rest of the countries. So this statement made by Chinese President Xi Jinping while participating at the BOA Forum for Asia is clearly targeted at groupings such as the Quadrilateral that is led by the United States, which also includes the participation of India. Now let's look at a question from the 2017 prelims paper. Organic light emitting diodes or OLEDs are used to create digital display in many devices. What are the advantages of OLED displays over LCDs or liquid crystal displays? OLED displays can be fabricated on flexible plastic substrates. Roll-up displays embedded in clothing can be made using OLEDs. Transparent displays are possible using OLEDs. All the three statements are correct. Option C is the right answer. Now coming to the fact of the day, let's talk about the Central Vigilance Commission or the CVC, which has been mentioned in this article in the Hindu. According to this article, the CVC has directed all central government organizations to decide on corruption related complaints against their employees within a period of 3 months. So in this context, let's talk about the CVC or the Central Vigilance Commission. See, the CVC acts as the apex vigilance institution in the country, and it is an autonomous institution that monitors all vigilance related activity under the Government of India. It advises various authorities of the central government, including ministries, departments, and organizations, in planning, executing, reviewing, and reforming their vigilance related work. See, vigilance in this context mainly refers to clean, optimal, and effective governance that is free from corruption. This institution was set up in 1964 by the Government of India based on the recommendations of the Committee on Prevention of Corruption, which was chaired by Sri K. Saddanam. Later in 2003, the Parliament enacted the CVC Act, which conferred the statutory status to the CVC, and today it functions as an autonomous independent body, and it is only responsible to the Parliament, and it is not controlled by any government ministry or department. The composition of this commission can be very important for prelims, and hence please note that the CVC is headed by a Central Vigilance Commissioner who acts as the chairperson of this institution, and he is assisted by not more than two vigilance commissioners who act as the members to this institution. This apex autonomous body receives complaints on government corruption and misuse of office, and it can even recommend appropriate action against corrupt officials. It takes up complaints received from central government, from Lokpal, and as well as from whistleblowers. But however, please note that the CVC is not exactly an investigating agency on its own. Instead, it is empowered to carry out inquiries into offences that have been allegedly committed under the provisions of Prevention of Corruption Act of 1988. Such cases are taken up by the CVC and it gets them investigated through the CBI or through the chief vigilance officers who are supposed to be appointed in government departments and ministries. In the landmark Vineet Narayan case, the Supreme Court ruled that the CVC enjoys a superior role when it comes to tackling government corruption, and in this case, the Supreme Court clearly established the superintendence of the CVC over the CBI. In 2013, through the Lokpal and Lokayuktas Act, the CVC Act was also amended, through which the CVC has been empowered to conduct preliminary inquiry and further investigation into complaints that are referred to it by the Lokpal. Based on references received from the Lokpal, the CVC can get these cases investigated through the CBI, as the CBI works under the overall supervision of CVC in matters related to corruption as per the provisions of Prevention of Corruption Act. The CVC Act also guarantees the independence of the CBI director by providing for a security of tenure of 2 years to the director of the CBI, and the Chief Vigilance Commissioner also heads the selection committee that recommends the names of the director of CBI and other officers of the rank of SP and above to the appointments committee of the CBI. So with this, let's conclude our discussion for today. Thanks for watching.